It's 5.75 pounds of post-apocalyptic love.
Who has a more epic beard? Kaz from the Dice Odyssey or Chuck Norris? All right, stop,
Collaborate,
and listen. Hey, welcome to G Club, to our first ever Stop, Collaborate, and Listen, a show designed to get to know the board game community. This is where the board game movers and shakers stop what they're doing, collaborate on topics, and we get the opportunity to listen and learn from designers, publishers, media creators, and you, the gamers. I'm your humble host, JT, and I've got Jon from Fallen Dominion Studios on the show with us today to talk about their upcoming game, Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game. So let's get to know Jon, and we'll start with you. So who are you? What is your role in the company? And what dessert best describes you?
Hi, my name is Jon Lonngren from Fallen Dominion Studios. I am the CEO and co-creator of Fallen Land's post-apocalyptic board game. I wear many different roles at the company, including project manager, lead design, and I do a lot of writing. So the dessert that best describes me would have to be probably creme brulee. It's multi-layered, smooth and creamy, I guess. I don't know.
Smooth and creamy. All right. Well, that's a good way to describe yourself, right? Is smooth, right, and creamy.
I hope so. I'm not nearly as smooth as I am as I get older, but
All right. Well, hey, we're going to do a couple of segments here as we go through. It's almost like a baseball theme. We're going to do the wind-up and the pitch. So the wind-up here is where you're going to get a chance to talk a little bit about the game, what's the theme, the mechanics, length of time, player count, all that kind of fun stuff. And then we're going to get into the pitch. We'll do the sales pitch. So let's do the wind-up here. Let's talk about the game.
The game is Fallen Lands, a post-apocalyptic board game. And its first expansion is Journey into Darkness. The game is basically a sandbox-style post-apocalyptic board game that includes elements of adventure, politics, economics, diplomacy, and it is a go anywhere, do anything style game. And I really don't think that there's anything like it on the market right now. It's kind of a full immersive experience where you are the leader of a faction of survivors, and you're going to have to manage your town, essentially, in addition to sending out your party of characters out into the waste to help actualize your agenda. So there's something there for everyone. For myself as a creator, has been just to see the wide swath of people who have enjoyed this game. It's from teenage girls to people in their 60s. It's been very interesting, and a lot of people have had fun with it. And like I said, it's been a labor of love for 13 years, and it's one of the most exciting things for us is just to sit back and watch people enjoy it. So
yeah, that's got to be a big win for you when you get done designing a game, putting it out there, and you're getting great feedback from it. I'm sure that's when it makes it rewarding to be able to pull it off. Now, I've heard some people call this kind of like a half RPG, half board game in a box.
Yeah, it's I like to call it it's 5.75 pounds of post-apocalyptic love. It's it does have, it's kind of an emulsification of a strategy board game, card building, and some light RPG elements. Although some of the feedback we've been getting lately is, there's a little bit more RPG elements than we anticipated. Like, anticipated is the wrong word. Like, as a creator, when you create something and your team creates something, like, you view it one way perhaps, but the public views it a little bit differently. So, it's been fun. We've had a lot of great feedback about it. So
I can imagine that with a sandbox game like that, people are going to do different things with it than you probably ever expected. So
yeah, for sure. And there's there's really multiple ways to play. We've tried. We feel we've designed a game that allows the player themselves to kind of tailor things to their personal preferences, and it does quite a bit for what it is.
We did the wind up. We're getting a chance to do here the pitch. Now, you were at Gen Con, so I'm sure you had the opportunity to kind of do your elevator pitch quite a few times at the convention here. So let's give us that sales pitch. Who's this game for, and why should we get this game?
Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game. It is for ages 14 up. It's for 2 to 5 players. It's about an hour per player, although, so a 2-player game is going to take 2 hours. A 5-player game is going to take 5 hours. Only a 2-turn learning curve to this, and we've had a lot of play testers and feedback where people are able to get it, down to about, 40 minutes per player, depending on how many times you've played it and your experience. There's something here for everyone. Like I said, there's, adventure, politics, economics, diplomacy. You're building a town. You're the leader of one of 10 unique factions in the game. There's over 80 unique character cards with different abilities, different stats. There's so much to explore. Every time you play it, it's going to be a completely and utterly different experience. Every time you play it with different people, it's going to be a completely, utterly different experience. And, we feel really thankful to the community for its reception so far. And it's exciting to see something that Sean Cahill and myself and our team at Fallen Dominion Studios, including people like Warren Ripley, Patrick Phillips, Bones Jones, Bill Pitcher, Joe Lauer, people like Carter Allen, all these people kind of help bring the world to life, and it's been a real roller coaster ride, and it's been a really exciting process. I can't say that we haven't made a lot of mistakes along the way because this is our first title, but it's a really solid game. It's been play tested probably 11 of those 13 years. Like I said, there's something there for everyone. Mm-hmm. People are really having fun with it, and we're excited about it. So
good. I know I saw Kaz from the Dice Odyssey. I was surprised he could let go of the box long enough to actually open it up and actually do a review. He was hugging that thing. So
I certainly appreciate people like Kaz and people like Forrest Bauer, people like Robert Oren taking an interest in our game. It really makes us happy, and ultimately, we create games at Fallen Dominion Studios because we like making people happy. We like making the board game community happy, and we wanted to. We started this back in 2005, and we really wanted to lay some solid bedrock in that genre. Mm-hmm. Really hadn't been done, and this is a massive scale game. It will drag you in, and there's just so much here. There's probably 600 of my short stories. There is just innumerable pieces of awesome artwork, and it's a really massive project in a relatively small box. It's about the same size as a Catan box. So
okay, yeah,
it's just very hefty. So
that's good to know, because I know when I first saw the box online, there was one of those things of, wow, how big is this box going to be? Is this going to be one of those coffin boxes, right? Like a Hero Quest size box. But I saw, and I saw in Kaz, and you're right, and Forrest Bauer also had it on it as well. And I think both Forrest and Kaz said that this is already in their top 50 games. And that's high praise from them. We've talked about the wind up and the pitch, and now we're going to do the swing. We're going to start knocking some balls right back at you, and see if we can get something here. So first thing I'm going to do, though, in the Q&A part of this, is that I'm actually going to grab from the mailbag. We actually had some fan mail, so let me see if I can grab this real quick.
All right.
So here's my my mailbag. Let's see here. What do we got in here? Okay, sorry, my dentist appointment reminder. Oh, credit card bill. Oops. Oh, and a little beat up here, but hey, we got something from Cameron here from G Club. Of course, this is going to show up backwards on my screen, but that's okay. But let's see what Cameron says here. Does the game come with an insert?
The game has. First of all, this is a really expensive game to make. There are so many cards and so much to this game that it is a very expensive game. The insert we do have for it is a cardboard insert, but we do include a whole bunch of things to help organize it. In the future, we hope to be able to do like a deluxe edition of the game and start thinking a little bit more about, plastic inserts and so on and so forth. But yeah, for now, that is the answer. So
okay. And then the other question that Cameron has here is, are there any plans for future expansions? I mean, I'm looking at this game, and you put a ton of material in it. So are you planning on doing anything else with it?
Time will tell. Yeah, it kind of depends on sales and everything. We would like to do an expansion. We have some material put aside for that expansion. One of the things about making a big game like this and taking 13 years to make it is that, Stephen King calls it killing your darlings. You have to put stuff, you have to pick and choose what you put in. And even though some of that stuff is phenomenal material, like we just, the rule book was big enough as it was, and, there's just not everything can make it in the box. It's a tight fit the way it is. So,
what was the most painful part you had to cut from the game?
I don't want to give away too much. There is one of the elements was an economic element that we kind of trimmed down, and it was a very, very cool element, and we had to kind of remove that from the game to try and save on some manufacturing costs and stuff. And there is just so much jammed in this box. It is basically what we hope to be a game that's going to withstand the test of time. Like there's enough material here that people will enjoy their unique experiences each and every time they play the game indefinitely, essentially. And things like action cards will come into play, with depending on the people that you're playing with as well. So there's just all of these variables and an immense equation that really lend to unlimited gameplay and unlimited replayability with a unique experience. And there's just so much to explore here. It's what we feel is a very fantastic game. So, and we've had, like I said, incredible feedback and support amongst the gaming community so far, and we very much appreciate it,
Yep. It's like, how does the apocalypse happen in this particular game?
It is kind of a spiral of events. If you look back in history, like some of the worst catastrophes in history, or like, World War I comes to mind. You have all of these small events that kind of compiled together to create a horrible situation. And I guess that'd be a good way to describe, the history of this game, essentially, what happens in the game. There's a series of terrorist attacks that lead to different countries, basically, like North Korea invades South Korea. This was written 13 years ago, and it's a little shocking sometimes to see. The main story of the game is on page 1, I think, of the rule book, and there's some interesting events there that let's hope that none of this ever happens. This is a fantasy game, it's a pretty serious topic, obviously. Something, war is terrible. This is a terrible scenario. But basically it's, there are survivors, and there's 10 different factions that you can play as. You are the leader of a faction, and, your main goal is to essentially, keep your citizens safe, grow your town, and try and rebuild a little bit,
What faction, would you think you'd be a part of, and why? I know that there's some fun things out there you guys did that I want you to kind of talk to and encourage folks to go check out when it comes to this faction stuff. But talk a little bit about the factions. Who are they?
There's 10 different factions in the game. Each one has unique abilities. I don't want to skew the players in favor of one faction or another. They all have their unique perks and starting abilities and so on and so forth that make them special, and that give them different abilities than everyone else. And they're all really fun to play. They're very well balanced. I wouldn't say one faction is better than the other. That's another element, that every time you play, you're going to be able to try your hand at a different, being the leader of a different faction and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I do have my personal favorites. I probably wouldn't say that here, but yeah, each one's really fun to play. So,
okay. Now there's a generator where you can actually go out and I'll put that in the show notes below if people want to check this out. But I thought it was really cool. I did it myself and ended up getting the New Federalist. Now, I'm not sure what that says about me necessarily. I just was trying to, make some decisions. There are interesting decisions you got to make in there. But I remember the description was something like, only the strong survive, but I help the weak if they can pay. So I'm not sure what that says about me. But
you're a banker, right?
Oh, banker. There you go. So, anyway, so talk a little bit about this tool. How did that come about? Did somebody just create that for you? Was that a part of the team? How did that happen?
Yeah, Philip S. Bolger created that for us. He's a great friend of ours. He's done some stuff for the studio. We actually met Phil because he drove down from Chicago. He drove 4 hours to a playtest session we had at our friendly local game store. Is a hobby corner here in Iowa City. I've been going there for over 20 years. I love that place. And anyway, Phil was a Kickstarter backer. He took the time out of his day to drive 4 hours down, played 2 or 3 games of Fallen Land, and then drove back that night. And
wow.
And he really loved the game. He actually wrote the very first review for the game after that experience. It was a phenomenal review. Philip S. Bolger, he's a phenomenal writer. We love the guy, and we might be doing some collaboration with him in the future. Time will tell. So,
okay, that'll be fun. So what was the inspiration to design this game? What kind of was that seed thing that said, you know what, this is what we want to do, and got you excited and got the ball rolling?
There just really wasn't in 2005 when we started this project. We foolishly thought we'd be done in a year. We really didn't know what we were getting ourselves into. Look, here it is with gray hairs and all, 13 years later, it's finally here essentially, and weeks away from being on people's doorsteps. And yeah, we wanted to lay some solid bedrock in the post-apocalyptic genre. There really hadn't, of course there were some RPGs out there, but we wanted to create, Sean and I and our team, we wanted to create a game that we wanted to play. And, that has been actualized with Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game, and it's a game that never gets old. You know, we still play it all the time. You know, you think we'd be bored of it by now with all the, you know, we've been working 80-hour work weeks to bring this to everyone for the last 13 years. Mm-hmm. You know, all our free time, all our money has gone into creating this game. But it's an amazing game, and I look forward to everyone playing it. And like I said, there's something there for everyone, and it's been a real labor of love. So
you talked about the playtesting. You said we did for 11 years of playtesting. So describe the playtesting process for folks that might not be familiar with how playtesting works in the board game industry.
Everyone goes about the process a little bit differently. You know, initially we started off with small groups of people and kind of expanded from there. The most important thing when it comes to playtesting is, you know, keeping track of all the information. That's really a challenge. You know, in our case, we created like a little, essentially a sheet that you can fill in different details. And when people play tested it, we'd take their feedback, and for better, for worse. And, you know, when we had multiple people saying the same things, we'd make adjustments and, you know, take it back to the drawing board a little bit and adjust it. And then, you know, it's a very, very long process to play test a game properly. We've had a lot of great feedback about our rule book. There's probably 12 versions of the rule book before the current rule book that was released. Like I said, we've had really good feedback about that. And I think writing that, I took a little bit different style approach, and I had a great team behind me doing that. Sean did a lot of the layout. He worked really closely with me. I laid out the foundation, and from there we just started working, and, you know, it takes quite a few versions of a rule book to get it right, but you know, the feedback we've had has been incredibly positive, and we're thankful that we put the time into it, because I think this game shows perhaps more so than the average board game that comes out. And, you know, because we have a small team and we're a small indie studio, we have the ability to do a lot of things that big companies don't. We don't have someone breathing down our neck that says, this has to be done right now by this deadline or else. And I think one of the biggest mistakes is, you know, that I see commonly with games that I even have purchased, you know, is like, you get the rule book and it's just, you can tell it's been thrown together, and there's a lot of errors in there and a lot of like problems that weren't play tested. And, you know, I can honestly say that our rule book doesn't have those problems because we took the time and to do it right, you know.
Yeah, one of the things I've been seeing in the reviews for Fallen Land has been high praise for the rule book. Now, as a guy that has done a bunch of technical writing in his career, I can tell you that's a passion of mine. In fact, there's a game out there that I will not name that is one of my favorites of all time, and I absolutely hate the rule book, and is almost the reason why I got into doing video game reviews, because I wanted to do a how to play video so I could teach people how to play the game because they couldn't figure out from the rule book. So I have a deep appreciation for that.
Yeah, it's a really common problem. I tried to write it in more of a conversational style versus like an imperative, you do this right now, you know, like I wanted to have it be more of a conversation between myself and the player and the people reading the rule book. And, you know, there's tons of examples, there's tons of diagrams, everything is completely documented in the index, there's quick reference charts, there's even like references for the diagrams in the back of the book. Like some of the feedback we've had is that, you know, it's just so easy to find things, and I think, I think that's another unique element to our game that really, what we feel, we hope that it shines, you know.
Yeah, it's 42 pages, I believe, is the amount, the size of the rule book, and from what I've heard, it's something where you do need to go through all of it. You can't really skip around and not get through everything. But anytime anyone's had questions, the feedback I've seen has been, hey, I just go to the index and I find exactly what I'm looking for. What do you think when it comes to that rulebook? Because the size of that might be intimidating to people. So can you talk people off the ledge that are going 42 pages?
You're gonna love it. It's one of those things. Once you start reading it, you're not gonna be able to put it down. Like I said, it's more of a conversational style. It's not. It's filled with awesome artwork, pictures, diagrams, fun examples, practical examples. And yeah, I mean, the very first part of setup in the rule book, it says, read the directions, read this rule book. And, we went back and forth about having that in there, and some of the people that helped work on this didn't really like that fact. They didn't want people to be insulted picking up the rule book and have that, but, it's just, I see it time and time again with all sorts of games across different genres in the board game industry where people just pick up a game and they expect that they're going to be able to just right out of the box play it right now, and without, and that's not really how it works. If you do that, you're gonna play it wrong. You may not have a good time with most of the games out there, and certainly there are rules. You have to read the rule book for this game, without a doubt. It's available for PDF for viewing and download at www.fallendominion.studios.com. We're in the process of revamping our whole website right now. That'll still be up there. It's a fun read. It really is. I enjoy reading rule books in my spare time, and perhaps that's why, the rule book, one of the factors contributing to, our rule book, how accessible it is, how fun it is, and people are not going to be bored. It's not scary. People, certain elements of this game look intimidating, but it is such an intuitive system. Once you read the rules, you're like, I totally understand this. This is so easy. And, I think, gosh, I probably shouldn't even say this, but I think as our society progresses forward, I think people just want, the consumers and perhaps our society in general, we just want things quickly and now, but good things take time, and there's no shortcuts. I don't agree with a lot of the videos that, wow, I watched a video, now I know how to play. You really don't. And I think unless it's a small card game or something like that, people aren't doing any game justice if they just open the box and expect to play right away. It's worth taking the time to read. People are going to enjoy it. It's a fun read, and like I said, it's the system is intuitive, the rule book's intuitive, it builds on itself, and people that took the time to read the rule book are going to have an awesome experience, and I really feel like just straight across the board and in all genres of board games, people need to take time to read the rule book. You'll be glad you did. It's important.
Yeah, I think it's going to be difficult to have an immersive experience like what you're trying to do, but only have a 2-page rule book.
It's impossible. I mean, the rule book started off much larger, and we trimmed it down to, I think, 42 pages. But a couple pages, if you were to pull all the artwork out of that, it would be a lot smaller of a rule book. And there's room in there for house rules, which takes up a page. I mean, it's not actually 42. The booklet is 42, but
yeah, but you also have index and things like that in the back that are also taking up room.
All those elements are so important. I mean, and that's one of the things that sets our game apart, I feel strongly, is our index and our references, our diagrams, our examples. They're all practical things. From the feedback we've been getting, it's great. So
okay. So I'll definitely put links down in the show notes of the PDF for the rule book as well as your site, so people can go check that out as well. So let's talk a little bit about yourself. Get an idea of Jon. So, what was the red pill moment? Kind of using a Matrix reference here, or game that got you into the hobby and opened up your eyes to the hobby?
I'm not as young as I look. I started the first game I played that I have recollection of was first edition Dungeons and Dragons in 1978. I had a lot of friends who had older brothers that were looking for players, and I think my very first character was a barbarian in a loincloth with a battle axe who got killed right away. But the that kind of sparked my interest for playing games and things like reading Tolkien, and some of these things really started to open my eyes, and more I enjoyed playing games like Cyberpunk. And
as somebody who has been working tirelessly for the last 13 years, and we're talking to other people out there that are saying, you know what, I'd love to design my own board game, or I'd love to publish, do those kind of things. What advice would you give to someone who's just starting out with maybe just designing a game?
Well, before I answer that question, I saw an interview recently. It was with Eduardo Barif and James Mathy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, they kind of mirrored what I just said. It's hard to find time for your family, the business, to be creative. Myself personally, I have to be in the proper mindset to be creative, and it's really hard to get to that spot sometimes, being overtired and so on and so forth. Oh boy. Well, some of my personal heroes are like Christian T. Peterson from Fantasy Flight, the founder of Fantasy Flight.
Oh boy! Oh man!
He designed
great games.
Yeah, he designed Twilight Imperium. He's one of my personal heroes. I also have people like Jamie Stagmeyer. He has some really great books out there. He has a phenomenal site. He's helped our company. He does so much for the community. I can't say enough good things about the material he has out there to help people who want to create games. And people like James Mathy also have tons and tons of resources. Earlier in the industry, as a lot of these people have pointed out, people were kind of tight-lipped about these things because that's just part of the trials to do what we do. But people like Jamie Stagmeyer in particular, he's just done so much for the community to help other people create games. He has a crowdfunder strategy guide, which is an amazing book. I would say to people who want to design a board game, I can tell you, at least my personal experience and Sean's personal experience, we didn't know what we were getting into. It is a lot more work than people think. If there's anything I can do, please reach out to me to help. One of the most important things you can do as a designer is realize that it's a much smaller community than you would think. Everyone knows everybody, and to a certain degree, and it's important that you're not only building your community before you start really as you design a board game, you need to be growing your community, you need to be growing your audience, you need to be growing your pool of play testers, making as many contacts as you can within the industry. Because frankly, there's a lot of you're gonna make mistakes, and having people that can kind of help point you in the right direction is invaluable.
This community is very giving, and there's a lot of people out there that are willing to, invest the time to be able to put things out in the industry, and so it's always interesting to kind of hear, who's out there, such as yourself, and some of the things that you're going through, to be able to help others out, and I just find that that's what's interesting, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do, some kind of series like this. Is because I'd love to learn. I love to learn about people's stories, how they got into it, and how they want to do things. And this is certainly a community that does that very well.
Yeah, you're gonna get back what you put out into the world, and that applies to the board game industry too.
Yep. What's up next for Fallen Dominion Studios?
We have working files on some other material and some games and some expansions, so it's just stay tuned and enjoy this for now. It's Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game, and Journey into Darkness, its first expansion. Trust me, it's more than enough to keep you occupied for indefinitely. But there will be we're going to be returned to Gen Con 2018. We're going to have some surprises for people, and there's a lot of good things coming down the pipeline. Just everyone has to be patient. We're still dealing with the one we have right now,
Hey, let's get into our next section, what I call the catch. And this is where I'm going to just pepper you with questions, and we're going to see how quick and lightning reflexes you got going on here. So here we go.
Another shot or two of espresso to really have the panther-like reflexes that I'm capable of. I don't know if I possess those powers today, but I'll give it my best shot. So
here we go. Ready? What is your meeple color of choice in a game?
Red.
Who's your favorite designer?
Probably Christian T. Peterson.
Okay. If you could live in a board game universe, what one would you live in?
I would say Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game for that answer.
Hey, you know how it works, right? So if you know
how the system works, I feel like I do have my own card in the game, so maybe I'm there already. Who knows,
What TV channel does not exist but really should?
A sci-fi channel that doesn't continue to discontinue my favorite shows. How about that?
Okay, that'd be great. I'd appreciate that instead of replacing it with Sharknado. All right. What game do you wish you could erase from your memory so you could experience again for the first time?
There's so many great board games out there. There's so many games I love. I'm a big fan of Gale Force 9, Spartacus. I love the Spartacus board game. It's so awesome. I love that to death, and I would say the Spartacus board game.
What board game title best describes your life?
I'm going to have to say Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game, because it has been my life for the last 13 years, and the life of everyone else in the project. Like I said, we have a lot of great people. Sean Cahill, the co-creator of Fallen Land, a post-apocalyptic board game. People like Bill Pitcher, Warren Ripley, Patrick Phillips, Bones Jones. Just a team of great artists. So many people help bring the world to life.
All right, here's another one. Among your friends, what are you famous for?
A lot of times I perhaps answer questions with a story, kind of give examples and so on and so forth. I'm kind of a storyteller. For example, most of my life playing Dungeons and Dragons, I've been the Dungeon Master. This is only in recent years have I had the opportunity to really enjoy being a player and have someone else do that, and it's been very satisfying. Of course, it's been back and forth, but most of my time playing a game like that, I've always enjoyed being the storyteller, and that's why I enjoy writing, and I love writing pulp fiction, and a lot of the stuff in this game is pulp-inspired fiction, so...
There you go. And Pulp Fiction's not just a movie by Tarantino. Who has a more epic beard? Kaz from the Dice Odyssey or Chuck Norris?
Kaz from the Dice Odyssey has the ultimate beard I've ever seen. That guy, he's so awesome. But I was laughing with my wife the other day, and I was describing his beard to her, and him and I make beard jokes going back and forth. I've had a full beard before, but nothing as good as his. But he reminds me of the original G.I. Joe figures were about 12 inches tall, and they had, one of them had a beard, and I always joke that Kaz has the original G.I. Joe beard. So, yeah, I have never seen a beard that full, so... Him and Brian gave the game the Full Beard Award, which is a prestigious award for the Dice Odyssey, and Fallen Lands is in the top 15 games of all time for both those guys, which is, and they gave us, I think, a 9.5 out of 10. So,
well, Kaz is a good guy, and he's got the ultimate chin spear. I just have to say that.
Yeah.
So I've told him before that his beard needs its own Instagram, and that's just a matter of fact. What is your weapon of choice in the Apocalypse?
As always, it's going to be AK-47, 7.62 by 39 millimeter assault rifle. Great stopping power, very little maintenance, and it's almost indestructible, and just you can bury it in the mud for years and pull it out and fire 30 rounds, no problem. It's the ultimate weapon. If I was in a horrible situation like this, that's the weapon I would reach for.
Final lightning round question. So this one's a little bit wordy, but this is worth all the bonus points. You've been playing by yourself, so hopefully you'll still win. All right, here we go. The Apocalypse is just beginning, and you have just enough time to gather your family, your friends, your pets, your belongings, and one game before you get out of town. What is the one game that you're grabbing on the way out the door?
I really sound selfish by keeping the repeat Fallen Land a post-apocalyptic board game, but that's the one I'd take. That's the game that I would take with me. So.
Okay, there you go. All right, so that was the catch here. So we've done the wind-up, we've done the pitch, we've done the swing, we've done the catch, and now we're going to do the call. So where can people find you? Where can people find your game?
Like I said, we're in the process of completely overhauling our website. It's taken a little bit more time than we anticipated. You can find us on the web at www.fallendominionstudios.com. You can find us on Facebook at Fallen Dominion Studios LLC. We update our Facebook page almost every day. And, also on Twitter and Instagram and some of these other platforms as well.
You've been following along at home. You've been listening to some of these questions. What would be the one game that you would grab on the way out of town at the beginning of the Apocalypse? Let us know in the comments below. So, we've come now to the wrap, John. I just want to say a big thank you to you and your studio, Fallen Dominion Studios, for coming on our first ever Stop, Collaborate, and Listen. I had a good time with you, man. I appreciate you, hopping on with us and having a good time.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity. It's been great. We'll have to do this again soon.
Yep, it's been fun. So those of you at home that have been watching, if you had a good time, hit that subscribe button, hit that like. Let us know your feedback in the comments below. If you got any questions for John or myself, please let us know, and we'd be happy to jump in and answer any questions that you have about the studio, about the game. Anyway, my name is JT.
I'm Jon Lonngren.
Thank you so much for watching, and you've been watching G Club. I don't don't always test my code, but when I do it in production. All right. Boom. Okay, so you're looking good again. I would say I'm looking good again, but that's all a matter of perception, right?